Thank you, Caroline. What a great start. So our next presenter is Jamie McIntosh. Jamie is the Area Technical Manager for Lowerham GB, who supply day-old chicks to farmers in the egg industry. He's a keen skier who also enjoys playing squash and golf, presumably not all at the same time. He is keen to see egg consumption in the UK reach its full potential. And Jamie's topic is explore new ways we can market eggs to maintain a steady increase in egg consumption. Please welcome Jamie. Thank you.
Well, good morning, ladies and gentlemen, Nuffield scholars. This is Emma Morano from Italy on her 117th birthday. At the age of 20, she was diagnosed as anemic by a doctor, and he advised that she should eat 3 eggs a day, something she did for the rest of her life. And in fact, towards the end of her life, she didn't eat much else. Man domesticated the hen at least 5,000 years ago, and we've been enjoying and benefiting from eating her eggs ever since. Ladies and gentlemen, I believe that the egg is on a comeback. I'm very grateful to the McRobert Trust who have given me the opportunity to look at new ways we can market eggs to keep consumption steadily rising. We all know how versatile the egg is, and we can see just some of the ways we can present that egg on the screen there. What we don't see is all the different ways that eggs are included as ingredients for other foods, and the different ways that they can be used to enhance cooking as well. And it all comes at an extremely competitive cost. But what else do we get for that cost? Well, let's look at nutrition for a second. It's important to recognise that the egg has the nutritive capabilities to create life. And you can see the abundance of nutrients that we get with that list on the screen there. There's 2 points I want to focus on. First, protein power. The egg has the most complete, high-quality source of protein that money can buy. It has all 9 essential amino acids that the human body needs but can't make itself. And what's more, those amino acids in the egg are easily digested by the body. And we should be viewing the yolk as something that can feed the mind. Or as Professor Fabian de Meester, who I met in Poland, put it, yolk is brain fat, and it's the best mind food by a long way. And all this in just 75 calories. For those of us watching this, it's a calorific bargain. Research now is focusing more on nutrition during pregnancy, birth, and the first 2 years of life, because it's at this time that brain development is faster than any other time in a person's life. And recent studies tell us that eggs are a rich source, not just any source, but a rich source of most of the essential nutrients needed for that brain development. Why am I telling you all this? Well, here's 2 big reasons. Despite all the benefits that the egg brings us, and despite the fact we've seen some pretty good market growth in the UK, in terms of consumption per person per year, we are lagging behind both our European neighbours and certainly behind the highest producing countries in the world. And this graph here illustrates that in this list of 30 countries, we are sitting in the bottom third. And to put that into context, in the UK, we're consuming around about 200 eggs per person per year. That one off the scale there, that's Mexico, and they're at over 360 eggs per person per year. And in the UK, we are facing a major health crisis. Obesity levels, those with type 2 diabetes, cardiovascular illness, mental health problems, they're all prevalent issues and a real burden on the NHS. I could go on and on about scary stats for all of these things, but for me, this one pretty much tops a lot. 34% of children in England and Wales are estimated to be overweight or obese by the age of 11. And research tells us that nutrition plays a big part in all of these health conditions. So I think eggs should be playing a bigger part in the solution to these problems. So how do we go about that? Well, for starters, we've got this, the lion. The British Egg Industry Council have done a fantastic job of turning around what was a disaster story in the late 1980s. when Edwina Curry told us that most eggs were contaminated with salmonella. That had disastrous consequences for the industry, and it shattered confidence levels in the consumer. Since then, the line scheme's been introduced, and all hens now in the scheme are vaccinated with salmonella, and there's numerous food safety and biosecurity protocols in place as well. So now what we have is a scheme that is very well recognised by the consumer and the medical profession, but more importantly, it's well trusted. So it's a great platform for us to build upon when we're trying to increase consumption. But industry must keep its house in order for that to continue. What about the consumer? Well, today's consumer has been bombarded with conflicting information about what's good and what's bad about the egg on all sorts of issues, from food safety to health, to environmental concerns, and of course, animal welfare. So I think it's important more than ever that we capitalise on the good egg image. I think we do that by spreading the word in lots of different ways, and these organisations that I saw last year demonstrated great ways we can do that. Egg Farmers of Canada, first of all, when they go for a marketing campaign, they always start with the natural goodness of the egg, and they focus on specific consumer groups like millennials, those with an active lifestyle, or multicultural. They find it's important to invest in evidence-based research, partly for the consumer's benefit, but also consumer engagement. And this, the Downtown Diner event in Ottawa, the capital of Canada, was a perfect example of that. You had all these people from office blocks coming down for their lunch hour, lots of members of the public stumbling upon this great big white tent, serving free lunches with egg ingredients, of course. And you had these guys, the farmers, with "Ask Me, I'm a Farmer" written on their t-shirts. And in addition to that, it attracted politicians from the nearby Parliament, including the most famous of them all, Justin Trudeau. The American Egg Board are quite similar in the way that they focus on the consumer, but one of the other things they're doing is they're working a lot on the food service side. And they're doing a lot of work at the moment with schools, colleges, and universities, and they've come up with these focus programs for the caterers. And through these different platforms, they inform on the best ways of cooking and storing eggs, the health benefits, and that kind of thing. And one of my favourites is 5 Days, 5 Ways. On the screen here, we've got pre-cooked patties and pre-cooked omelettes, but it's not limited to that. The idea here is to give you the idea that there are 5 different ways of presenting that egg for 5 different days of the week. Very simple, but very effective. And recently, the American Egg Board also had Dr. Tia Raines from the Egg Nutrition Centre go out and do a radio media tour. And she talked about the heart-healthy egg being a nutritional powerhouse. 18 media interviews she did had an estimated reach of 46 million people. Now, Colombia have seen remarkable progress in their egg consumption. In fact, almost a 45% increase in just 10 years. And they communicate their messages through lots of media channels, but TV is the main one for them. And they've come up with these very simple ads. Food that makes you stronger. Young people looking for food that's easy to cook because a lot of the time they can't be bothered. And then eggs for families, and the message that if your child eats that egg, they will become clever at school. So what about selling the egg? Well, one of the things that struck me was the different ways we can approach branding. In the UK, like a lot of Europe, we focus on the housing system. So selling egg as either cage or colony, barn, free range or organic. But there's lots of ways we can look beyond that, and this was a perfect example of that. This was Super Recitos in Colombia. Really attractive, striking packaging with egg characters, which would immediately jump out at the school children that this was targeted at, and then a message for the parents that if your child eats these extra vitamins that we've got on the egg will help them function better at school. And then this was Danegg in Denmark's fitness egg. Really striking pink packaging, available in table and liquid egg form, and targeted at young, active women. And one of the other things that struck me was just how easy it was to include eggs in different foods. In Japan and China, especially, convenience food and food to go is becoming very popular, a bit like it is here in the UK. And I saw numerous examples of an egg just being added in to different dishes. So it's a great way to add nutrition, a great way to add value to the meal, and more importantly, a great way to increase consumption. So some closing thoughts. Well, we need to promote the egg as a nutritional goldmine, because that's exactly what it is. And we need to capitalise on the good egg image, and we do that by spreading the word in lots of different ways. And we need to think bigger in terms of branding and look at the new opportunities in processing and catering too. And I'll leave you with this. Without protein and without fat, we can't survive. Eggs have it. Eggs are life. Thank you very much.